This is a poem called Another Night Before Christmas by Duffy. On the night before Christmas, a child in a house, as the whole family slept, behaved just like a mouse, and crept on soft toes down red-carpeted stairs. Her hand held the paw of her favourite bear. The Christmas tree posed with its lights in its arms, newly tinselled and baubled with glittering charms, flirting in flickers of crimson and green against the dull glass of the mute TV screen. The hushed street was in darkness, snow duveted the cars. A stray cat had embroidered each roof with its paws. An owl on an aerial had planets for eyes. The child at the window stared up at the sky, where two aeroplanes sped to the east and the west like a pulled Christmas cracker. The child held her breath and looked for a sign up above as the moon shone down like a gold chocolate coin on the town. Far beyond the quiet suburbs, the motorway droned as it cradled the drivers who murmured at phones and drove through the small hours this late Christmas Eve, the ones who were faithless, the ones who believed. But the child, who was up and long out of her bed, saw no visions of sugar plums dance in her head. She planned to discover for once and for all if Santa Claus or Father Christmas was real. There were some who said no, he was really just Mum with big cushions or pillows to plump out her tum, or Dad with a red cloak and cotton wool beard, a whiskey or three down his neck for good cheer. So she took up position behind a big chair that was close to the fireplace. 4 stockings hung there. Quite soon there'd be one tangerine in each toe, and she'd be the child who would see and would know. And outside, a lone taxi crunched back into town where the shops had their shutters like giant eyelids down, and people in blankets with nowhere to go were hunched in shop doorways to keep from the snow, where a giant plastic Santa climbed up the town hall and security guards dozed or smoked in the mall. The cash points glowed softly like icons of light from corner to corner on Christmas Eve night. Then a shooting star whizzed down the sky from the north. It was fizzing and sparkling as it fell to earth and growing in size. A young hare in a field gazed up at the sky where it brightened and swelled. It turned into a sleigh made of silver and gold, pulled by reindeer whose breath chiffoned out in the cold. With bells on their antlers and bells round each hoof, then clatter, they landed on you-know-whose roof. Now herself, near the fireplace, had fallen asleep, so she missed every word that a voice warm and deep was saying above her as each reindeer's name was spoken and flared in the night like a flame. Dasher, whoa, Dancer, whoa, Prancer, Vixen, well done. Comet, whoa, Cupid, whoa, Donner, Blitzen, what fun. The shadows of reindeer were patterns on snow, which gift-wrapped the garden 3 stories below. It's a fact that a faraway satellite dish which observes us from space cannot know what we wish. Its eyes' empty sockets film famine and greed, but cannot see Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. He was dressed all in red from his head to his toes. Also red was the Christmassy glow of his nose. His beard was as white as the flakes that fell down on rich and on poor in this ordinary town. His eyes twinkled like tinsel and starlight and frost, and they knew how to give without counting the cost. He'd slung on his back a huge sack full of toys to lug down the chimneys of good girls and boys. Dasher snorted and Blixen poured hard at the roof. They'd a long night before them, and that was the truth. But Santa had vanished. A puff of black soot burped out of the chimney, dislodged by his foot. All this noise woke the child, who had fallen asleep, so she popped up her head and made sure she could peep, without being seen, at whoever it was, who stood in the fireplace. Big wow, Santa Claus. Though she lived in an age where celebrity ruled, and when most of the people were easily fooled by TV and fashion, by money and cars, the little girl knew that here was a real star. Then she watched as the room filled with magic and light, as the spirit of Christmas made everything bright, and suddenly presents were heaped by the tree. But she didn't wonder which ones are for me, for the best gift of all is to truly believe in the wonderful night that we call Christmas Eve, When adults remember of all childhood's laws, this time in December will bring Santa Claus. Santa turned and he winked at her and then disappeared, with a laugh up the chimney with soot in his beard. She ran to the window and watched as his sleigh took off from her roof and he sped on his way. And as long as she lived, she would never forget how he flew as the moon showed him in silhouette, from rooftop to rooftop, and called from his flight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."